Hey, Elisa, are you the IT person? Oh, I can't
You're
hear you.
muted.
Sorry. I'm not the IT person. I think they will have someone come in, but I am the moderator.
Oh, perfect.
Uh,
Okay. Rebel, what did you want to say something?
I
no,
think,
I'm sorry. I just want to say that I'm here from IT.
okay. Is that Nestor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If we get a large amount of participants, which we don't anticipate right now based on who signed up for the session, we were going to try to do breakout rooms, but uh, we don't know how that, if y'all are able to do that, especially with us not being hosts.
We can make you host. I believe John was saying something about the breakout rooms would be handled under your representatives. I can check with him. He's here close by.
Oh, okay, they told us that we would set it up in this first few minutes before the session started. So, okay, we'll just pivot to not using breakout
Okay,
rooms then. Okay, thank you.
got it. Hmm?
For questions, did you prefer to have them at the end, or how would you like me to help assist you with moderating?
We are very open. So, I think if questions come in and they need to be addressed right away, let's answer them right then, or wait if we can wait till the end of the slide, before they move on, so we don't miss the point. If they can wait, we'll address them at the end.
And Rebel, you are sharing the slides, correct?
Yeah, I can share the slides.
Because that's how we practiced it before, so that's
Yeah,
why.
hold on one second.
Okay, I see it.
Okay, great.
Very good. Thanks.
And Elizabeth, I'm sorry, I can't see the notes again, so I'm gonna go off of my memory, and if I forget anything, let me know.
Okay. Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah, that's the bad thing about when you present, you can't see the notes. So I can see them, so I'll catch you. I got you. Thanks.
And I do see it is 1 o'clock, and to honor everyone's time, I will go ahead and welcome our next workshop, Engage the Everyday Student to Advocate for Open Education Resources, with Rebel Cummings-Sauls, Elisabeth Ball, and Don Aguero. I'll turn it over to our presenters.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here at the OER Arizona again. Maybe you remember us from a couple of years ago. We presented when we were first initiating this idea. It was a brand new concept. We hadn't even released it to our members. So we're super excited to be back and kind of show some updates and also get you in on the action. So our speakers today is myself, Rebel Cummings-Sauls. I'm from Florida Virtual Campus at the Library Services side of the house, and I'm the Director of Digital Services and Open Educational Resources. Sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Parker. I'm the Assistant Director for Operational Performance Improvement at the Florida Virtual Campus.
Yes, and I'm Elisabeth Ball. I'm Program Manager at for Digital Services and OER for Florida Virtual Campus Library Services. And we wanted to extend a special thanks to Dawn Aguero, who worked on this and had an emergency and could not be here. And Kathy is gratefully stepping in. We are also assisted today by three great team members in digital services and OER: Kestra Ward, Stephen Sonity, and Simone Jackson, who are here, and they will help us answer any questions that you have. And please feel free to ask your questions. Thank you. So looking at what we want to learn today, basically three things. We want to learn what the student advocate packet is. We call it the SAP, the SAP. Discuss how to make one for your campus, and then learn about best practices for communicating with students about OER that we have found through this process. Next slide.
So we were going to jump out into breakout rooms, but we're not going to break out. We're actually just going to stay here together. One of the things that we want to know from the audience, and this is a workshop, and if you've ever been to one of my presentations before, you know I like to interact with the audience and get you all engaged, so feel free to speak up and chime in. So if the one of my team can plop the link to the flyer in the chat as well, so in case people want to pull this up on their screen for better viewing. And if you would engage in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute, we want to know from you, could you imagine using something like this flyer on your campus? I think we put a different link in the chat if you want to try that second one. And if you're looking at this, what is the main message that you get from this flyer?
Save money and tell your friends.
Good, yeah. What else? Or is there another message you receive? OER awareness, good. And there was another question we were going to ask. Elisabeth, you want to go with that one?
Yeah, would your students clearly understand this message? And if you've been able to access the flyer, that's great. If you can see what Rebel's showing there, there are 3 steps: find an OER or ZTC course, share with your friends about this on social channels or posting flyers, and thank your professors for those professors that use OER. So do you think your students would clearly understand that message? And another one was, would the student advocate packet encourage your students to advocate for OER, do you think? Oh, yes. So Lisa says a matter of doing all the steps, or maybe just one of the steps, or 2 of them. Doesn't have to be all 3. Every little bit helps.
And the last thing before we move on, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to, in the chat, state who you are, where you're coming from, and how you might have participated in OER student advocacy before. And if someone can try the flyer link, Cheryl or Nancy, that I put in a reply, is that one working? And Kestrel just provided another one. I apologize for that. Okay, great. Success. Good. Thank you. So we just want to try to get an idea of who might be in the room here with us, and have you ever been a part of any OER student advocacy?
Good responses in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And we'll continue to welcome you to introduce yourself in the chat. One of the points for this, we'd like you to get to know who was here and maybe work together on some student advocacy later on down the road.
All right, so we'll just dive in. I'll dive into a quick kind of summary of the history of us, essentially, at Florida Virtual Campus work in this area, and then our particular unit's process. Florida Virtual Campus is in the Florida statutes, particularly 1006.73, where open educational resources are addressed, and particularly working engaging with the students and with faculty in this area. So it's one of the reasons we do this work. And so we had, our organization had a rich history of student focus, the textbook affordability survey you may have heard of, our Open Florida community, which is our online virtual community of enthusiasts. You don't have to be in Florida to be a member of it. Our summit has always had participation from students. And as well, our members we have a great group of members. University of Central Florida is one of them, and they've had a great OER event this week as well. And for instance, their students successfully advocated for opt-out language not being added. So Florida, we have a rich history of engaging with students in this area. So next slide, please. So we decided to bring focus, like what actually could our unit do? And so to encourage student advocacy in the area of OER. So way back in fall 2022, our group met, reviewed what was out there. There's a good information for student OER advocacy, toolkits, you name it, a ton of information. But we realized there was a need for information for the everyday student that doesn't have a lot of time, like student leaders. If you were at the University of Utah presentation prior to this, two wonderful student OER workers who are doing tremendous work in this area. And they are engaged, just going, that's wonderful. What we are seeing, though, are there's some students that need something very quick. So something that they can get their attention and get them involved very quickly, that's easy. And so we came up with the idea of a packet, meaning distilled down to some essential messaging. And so we asked the different stakeholders in our area, Open Florida, the National Listserv community, our members, we asked a student intern for feedback on if this was a good idea. And 3 of our member institutions really went to town and shared. That's how we can engage. One of the ways we engage with students, of course, is getting to them through our members. And they shared some student feedback, and it was consistently thought of to be a good idea. And so when we created this student advocate packet, which essentially at that time was a flyer, 2 LibGuides, one's for mobile, one's for desktop, a video, and some downloadable files, such as template letters if the student wanted to go further and ask a professor or an administrator, send them a letter. So that was soft launched. And then most importantly, we had a round of student user experience feedback and got some great feedback. And we revamped the packet based on that feedback. We presented here, as Rebel said, February or spring 2023. And then in this early summer 2023, we launched to the public. So that is kind of the early part of it. And next slide. So where we started, just really quickly, we had a student who was very engaged and created a flyer. We created our own flyers. We had fun with that. Next slide. Yes, and so then we came up with the flyer on your left. And then after the student feedback, student experience, user experience feedback, we tweaked it, and our marketing department was so helpful with this. We tweaked it. You see a QR code got added. Some other things got changed based on that student feedback through the user experience folks. And Kathy will talk more about that. Next slide. So where are we now? We are, well, we just were in fall 2024. We started over again. We've been monitoring usage, but we got more official with it and did the second round of student user experience feedback. We also did a library liaison survey of our members, key members in our consortium, and gave us good feedback from conversing with students. And then based on that, we have the revamped packet. Again, it is a, let me share it in it's the LibGuide is where the packet lives. Let me share that in the chat. And the key piece of this packet we found is this flyer. So that's what we're focusing on today. And that's why we shared it with you first, so you could get a taste of it. And we will be bringing that back in just a moment as we move through these. So yeah, so design and refine is the cycle. And so that's what I've been referring to. We're never stopping this. The story is continuing. It's not over. And we are sort of at the bottom of that circle between revising the draft. We've done that in our state and national launch. So next slide, we can go on to see what you guys think.
So yeah, again, this is a workshop. So we want to get you guys engaged and hear your input and your feedback. So first question, what is the OER Student Advocate Packet? That was one of our student learning outcomes. So we're hoping you guys can answer this one. And you can unmute if you want or use the chat to type. What is the OER Student Advocate Packet? Good. Yes, a guide for students. And what do you think about our process development? Sound like good. Yeah, it helps with ways. Yes, we have a iterative process for sure. It's a continuous cycle. We never stop, really. Yes, the key was asking students. Thank you for pointing that out. And if you were doing something like this, how would you develop something similar? Would you take a different approach? We'd love to know what ways you would do it. And while you're maybe typing an answer for how you would develop something similar, I like to point out Chelsea's comment that feedback from student works and also helps build student advocacy. And that was actually funny note, something the students said as part of the feedback is, I'm going to go find out if this is happening on my campus. You might engage student workers to create it. Good point, Chelsea. Great. Other suggestions, any of the answers to the questions? If you're still typing, please do continue to push those to the chat. Thank you. And we'll pass it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Rebel. So I want to talk a little bit about the user experience feedback studies that were conducted in 2023 and 24 and share some of the results and takeaways that we learned. Next slide. To provide some historical context, we did some research before the initial launch in 2023 and then did a follow-up study last fall. The goals of our study were to observe and note student interaction with the different types of materials that each person only reviewed one type of material. So each person only reviewed the flyer, the LibGuide, or the video. We had some participants review the materials on desktop and laptop, and we also had some participants review the materials on smartphones. We wanted to see the levels of comprehension, what the levels of comprehension were for the 3 steps, which were share, discover, and thank, and see if they would be willing to take any of those actions. We also wanted to obtain data that we could use as a baseline in 2023 and then compare to our future rounds of testing. Next slide, please. Our target audience was current students working on either a bachelor or associate's degree. Students were enrolled in either public or private state community colleges, universities, or technical or vocational centers. As mentioned, each person only reviewed one material type on one single device. Next slide, please. The questions we asked were similar across all the materials. In 2023, we did not have the video when we were doing the preliminary study, so we only have asked about the video in 2024. First, students explored the material content, and then we asked questions which included topics such as first impressions, familiarity with the resources, most important message conveyed, and steps willing to take. Next slide, please. Here are a few more questions we asked participants. For example, why would or wouldn't you be willing to act? What would you change? Participants were asked the same questions regardless of resource. Next slide, please. Now let's review the comparisons. Here you can see the flyer from 2023 compared to the one from 2024. On the left was the original that we showed to students. On the right, you can see changes that were made based on the original feedback. For example, it says help you and your friends on the right, which was added later based on feedback we received from the students that were asking questions such as, what about me? Can I save money too? Additionally, the word free highlighted in orange was added to the flyer to serve as a main attention grabber. That word in particular was very important to students, and so we added that and highlighted it. You can also see the QR code was added. Multiple participants said that would be helpful, so all of those changes were based on the original student feedback. Next slide. Here you can see that in both 2023 and 2024, 100% of participants said they were willing to take at least one of the steps mentioned. In 2024, there was a decline in willingness to share the message with others, willingness to share on social media, and willingness to share a course. But it was interesting that there was an increase in willingness to thank a teacher or instructor. Previously, we had participants mention that they were unsure why they would thank an instructor, or they were too shy or uncomfortable with doing that. So they were a little reserved with that. Next slide, please. Next, we will move on to the LibGuide page feedback. The Open Florida LibGuide page has numerous tabs at the top, and it has a thumbnail for the video. Students found that the tabs found the tabs at the top to be too confusing. And if they clicked on a tab, they tried to very quickly get back to the main page. Next slide, please. Based on student feedback, a more streamlined page for students was created. The new page provided a direct path for students to access the student advocate packet. Next slide. Here you can see the mobile views, and again, how the open Florida page on the left has the tabs that float to the top of the page, whereas the SAP page on the right is more streamlined for students. Next slide. In 2024, the data collected shows a comparison of the Open Florida page versus the SAP page. A high willingness to take action was found for both pages. Next slide. This chart is a comparison between 23 and 24. There was some decline in willingness to act. However, the user experience testing analysis didn't include any information related to a rationale for this decline. Next slide. Here we see the comparison of willingness for each activity. There is a decline in willingness to share on social media. We see students really want to make sure how it works before they pass it on. They don't want to share inaccurate information. Some of them would be willing to share in other ways, such as word of mouth or specific group chats, but not on their own social media. Next slide. Next, we'll provide some video feedback results, which were captured in 2024 only. Some participants viewed it as a standalone item, and some viewed it in the context of the LibGuide. Next slide. We saw a high willingness to take at least one action step, share, discover, or think, mentioned in the video. And again, some people place parameters around sharing, such as did they use it and did they like it? Next slide. So as you can see on the chart, there was a high percentage of willingness to act on each of the steps, with slightly fewer students willing to thank their instructors. Next slide. Here are some positive feedback responses. Overall, the OER concept was well received. We heard some students saying, as soon as I finish this study, I'm going to see if this is available at my school, or this sounds too good to be real, I can't wait to use it. The tools were seen as being helpful and informative. Next slide. Finally, let's review some of the challenges. For some students, the message and tools left them with more questions. It's very important for students to know that these resources are legitimate. People who saw the video as a standalone did have some ideas on how to improve or revise it in that context. Students who saw the video as part of the LibGuide thought it could be used a little more differently. Some thought it would be nice to have testimonials from other students about how the program works. Changes have already been made to the flyer based on the recommendations from 24. We look forward to gaining feedback on the materials again in a year or so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That's great information, I think. So that leads us to our first question to the audience for this section. Do you find this type of assessment useful? You can just put your answers in the chat or unmute if you'd like to talk. Okay. And what stood out to you the most from the results?
Rebel, this is Ginny. I have a question for you that I might have missed.
Go ahead.
And I was wondering what year students were you giving this out to? Was it freshmen? Was it a combination of years of students? And were they potential college students?
Oh, good question. Yes, they were 2 or 4 year students at a college or a university.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, I was also quite surprised that 100% of the students were willing to participate, and such a high number were willing to share and actually do the advocacy piece, right? Not only just advocate for themselves, but advocate for others in that sense. So that's great. And how would you gather user experience feedback if you had something similar to this at your institution? And to answer Cheryl's question in the chat, we have in the past encouraged students to leave feedback on textbook costs and the teacher course evaluations. I don't believe that we have it currently as a suggestion for going forward, and I think that's a great piece that I'll be pulling to take with me when we go forward. What we have done is kind of like from the opposite end, though. We've been working with faculty to advocate for them to have this included as a question on their course evaluation if they are using OER, so that the faculty member can obtain some of uh, that feedback for that use. So. Yeah, I think that's a great example, Alyssa has in the of just being able to maybe simply go into a class and hand it out and get feedback or pull it up and get feedback from the students there. It may not represent your entire college, true, but it would definitely represent some local students. So that's a great way to pull in that local feedback.
Yeah, so thank you for your engagement there and giving us some feedback here and also some suggestions. And so this is what we're kind of using you guys to get more ideas and feedback so that we can revise, update, iterate. So this slide is just to show the conversation never stops. And thank you so much for that. And you can go to the next slide, Rebel.
So really, our student advocate packet, this whole process was about engagement with the students. At the state level with Florida Virtual Campus, we're remote too. We don't have any interactions with students currently. I mean, we've had very few. It's when we were looking back, we were able, we've had some strong connections with some really strong student leaders that we've reached out to and we've partnered with, and we've provided great information to students through our LibGuides. But being able to get that actual connection directly to a student was something that we had not been able to get before. And so we were really excited to be able to get that student feedback on the student advocate packet throughout the whole process from initial concept really till today. We're still gathering feedback from our students on that and revising the flyer and website based on that feedback. You can see even the flyer, the brand new flyer looks a little different than the one from 2023 and 2024. So our assessment question that we were asking ourselves is, are we reaching our target audience? So the student group. And you can see the first year, this is our Google Analytics, and we had a total of 685 active users, 225 within our student on either of our student pages and 225 directly on our OER student advocate packet. And may not sound that great. Was our first year going out, but you can see we did have some spikes, probably around different events. And this only starts in June of 2023 or 2024 because we didn't have Google Analytics on our LibGuides until that point. One of the reasons we added it was to try to get some assessment of our engagement to the students. So a half a year there. And then looking at just this like last month here, we've had a total of 53 users on the student advocate packet. So if we can say in the month of January that we potentially touched 50 students, if we cut that down a little bit or less, I think that's still great numbers. And when we look at our LibGuide figures themselves, you can see from when we kind of started the soft launch, we got a bump in our summit when we had the May, the first year, 93 views over that 12 months for this one packet page. And you can see over the last when we launched this in 2024 and we push this out again and different things, and potentially its pickup in being used in Open Access Week in March of 2024. We saw a big spike of 326. And again, around our summit and right after our summit, as we were promoting it, we also saw spikes in participation. But even if we look at like one of our lowest months here of 32 touches, if we potentially reach 30 students in a month, that's like a huge boost from the 0 month I was able to reach before that. So we're excited to see that. And again, this is just the last 30 days, January, 31 days, 68 views. You can see there was a spike of one day, maybe it was used in a workshop with students and potentially touched 17 students that day. We also asked our library liaisons, because our members are really why we do this. We have 40 institutions that we represent, and we got 10 responses from a recent survey. 30% of those reported that they had actively used the student advocate packet. 70% reported that they had shared the student advocate packet on to somebody on their campus. Only one of our institutions had actually gone in and adapted the student advocate packet, but we had 3 others who stated they were in the plans of making that adaptation for their local environment. And we had 60% that had suggestions for improvements. So we actually did not ask our librarians really for a lot of their feedback until this point. And you can see even after some student input, the library liaisons had some impact and feedback for improvements as well. And we look forward to incorporating those as well. We just wanted to highlight that we were mentioned in the Open Education Network, making the message stick, as Elisabeth alluded to, the SAP, the sticky SAP. That's what we're hoping, that each drop of this student advocate packet effort molds together, and eventually we have this big, large, sticky mess of student advocacy happening all over the nation. We want to pull these efforts together, and we know that student voices are powerful and they can really make a message stick. We also like to highlight the Florida State College of Jacksonville, who was one of our institutions who incorporated and adapted the student packet into their education and information. And also another institution across the nation, I randomly found, has also included and adapted our student advocate packet. They link to it at the top, and then this page here mimics much of our text that we have available. So just highlighting and thanking you all for adapting the content and sharing it out with your institutions. So questions to the audience. Again, we want to get you guys engaged and we want to hear your feedback. What other ways can we engage students with this student advocate packet?
Rebel, it's Ginny again. I I'm a faster talker than I am a typer.
Go ahead.
I just was wondering, do you guys work with, for us, a lot of our students, their first engagement on campus is with college advisors. Are the advisors targeted in your marketing on the different campuses so that they know that this resource is available?
Yeah, good question. It does depend on each institution. We haven't actively targeted the advisors, but I think that's a good idea. We've been trying to actively target the students with this message, but I think the student advisors are definitely a great source of data for your students on campus and can be a great partner in this effort. And I would certainly welcome ways that we could partner with them to spread this message to our students and help in getting them to advocate for themselves. But yes, we have had some share it on, and those are ways that they've shared it. Some have shared it to their what they're not they don't call them student advisors. It's like a student learning success center directors and those kind of things, which are basically the student advisor directors. So they have shared the information out with those types of roles on their campuses.
Chelsea had a great comment in the chat about maybe getting faculty engaged somehow to share this. And we do see faculty, right? We have them attend Open Florida, we have them as speakers, we engage. So that's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
And we want to know, where do your students communicate? So how do they talk to each other? Instagram, good. Slack, okay. In class, in person, good. Okay. Our students last year at one of the conferences, one of the student panels said, um, we want to hear about this. And basically, the Everyday Student Advocate packet was meeting their needs. And their answer was, well, bring it to us where we're at. So we want to know, where are they? Where are they at? How are they communicating? How can you get this message to them?
This is actually a really hard thing to figure out because so many of our students are online, and I'm from a community college, so students don't hang out on campus so much. Even if they are taking in-person courses, they come in, they go to their class, and then they leave. I even see students sitting in the parking lot in their cars more than I see them hanging out with other students. And so that's been a challenge for me to figure out, like, how do I even get this information to students when they're online in D2L, and that's it.
That's a great point. Yeah. And I mean, even talking to, our librarians who are on campus who have student housing right there on, and talking to the directors of those areas, they're like, we don't understand it. These new groups of students, they won't even come out of their resident hall. So they like go in their room and they're in their room with the door closed. And so it's very hard to get access to them and get information to them. So I'm glad we're not the only ones seeing that. So. Okay, well, let's work together to see if we can identify some channels that we can communicate this out to the students. And last question, how do you engage students to advocate for OER, if you have, or if you do? Or now thinking about this, how would you? Yeah, one-on-one. Say word of mouth spreads like wildfire with the faculty members, some student government, student advisors from the library. That's a good word. Yeah. Student workers presenting to student government. Yeah, I think, Nancy, that's a key, that when students bring the message to students, it makes it stronger and it's well received. Okay. If one of the team members can place in the chat the link to the folder. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so that's the link to the folder. It has all different versions of this flyer. So I didn't know if you wanted to click on that, Rebel, and show them. There's also the same flyer versions within the Google Drive folder that Chelsea shared yesterday. So I will also put that in there just in case some thing doesn't work or something with this. Let me
I can't access the Microsoft links.
Okay, well, let me find the other one and I will put the Google Drive one in there. Hold on one second.
I might have it up too.
Okay. Here we go. Hold on one second.
I have that Google Drive. You want me to put it in?
Yeah, please do. Thank you. I'm having trouble getting to it.
First, Google.
Second. Okay. All right. So, and I'll put mine in there as well. Let's see. Share.
And it looks like it's just the first folder in there.
Okay, I'll get the other one in there. Hold on. Try this. That's the flyer folder, apparently. Okay. Can you see those?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the flyer.jpg and then a PDF there, which is the completed flyer. But Rebel, bless her, went through and did a lot of different versions of the flyer so that she removed the logo, she put something. So there's a lot for you to work with if you wanted to adapt this for your institution. You could put a different QR code in there. You could put your own website. And one of them has layers. I think in Rebel, you said you have to use Photoshop for that. But there's a lot of opportunities there for you guys. Yeah, I mean, Rebel did a tremendous job on that. Thank you. And to work with these, to adapt it, to change it. It is an, under an open license. We didn't say that, but that it is. It is CC by NC-SA, I believe. Is that what we said? Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
please do adapt them. That's basically what we want you to do right now. In fact, if you can choose the format that works best for you, if you have Adobe Photoshop, or if you have Adobe Photo, or if you have Photoshop, Creative Commons, or Creative Cloud for Photoshop, you can open up the PSD file, and that has layers in it. And so you can turn on or off the layers depending on your need. You can turn off all the layers if you just want to work with the flyer directly. You can turn on the layers to try to cut out some of the design aspects and put in new layers of your own. You do need to be familiar with Photoshop if you're going to work with that one. But we do also have it in just a Word file, and again, in all the different versions. So depending on whether or not you just want to plop in your own logo, maybe you just want to add your contact information to the flyer itself, so you can pull up the flyer and add your local contact information. So if you hand this out locally, someone can email you and contact you on how to, move the OER student advocacy needle on your campus. If you use the flyer with no logo, you could potentially just put your logo in there for your campus, your institution, and highlight your awesomeness and your awesomeness that you have going on there. And then the no logo and no text or text only, you can change the images. So you might be like Rebel. I will point all fingers at me, and you might hate those stock images when you look at them. I'm sorry, I'm not a stock lover. I'm not a stock image lover. So the first thing you may want to do is change out those stock images to something else. So feel free to use the one that doesn't have that has the text only. Or if you want to just change some of the text, maybe the wording, or you want to add, promote, maybe you have a special name for your OER program locally. You might want to highlight that somewhere in the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the flyer on my screen, and I'm going to ask you all to think about this, and maybe you're already working on it. But if there were 3 things that you would change on this in order to customize it to be more local, what would you do? Or what are you thinking about doing? Or what have you already done?
So we just recently got, I don't know if I'd call them course markings. They're more like cost indicators on our scheduled classes. And I made a little flyer showing students how to look for that and circle it because, there's a lot going on. I might think about putting in one of those images, like just a screenshot of our scheduled classes with no cost circled, so I could find it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And maybe you change zero textbook cost to no cost because y'all are using no cost instead of CTC language. Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I was going to chime in just to say that you can, of course, remove the in keeping with Florida Statute 1006.73. That was an addition that we put in based on, as Kathy was talking about, the feedback regarding legitimacy. So we put that in, but you can, of course, take that out.
What were the other questions we had on the?
Okay, let's see. The other questions were the 3 things to add or modify. Does the wording resonate with your community? If no, what changes would you make?
So I'm always wondering about using OER in general with our community. That's why we have gone to no cost, because a lot of the stuff we're using is actually library resources or open access, but it's still no cost to students. And so I wonder if some of the explanations I've been doing, like no cost could be OER or this or that, and not just kind of isolating it to OER.
Good point, Chelsea.
And Cheryl's comment seems like she would probably do something similar.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a question we sometimes do hear from our instructors that we interact with. What's the difference between OER and CTC and no cost and all that? So however your institution is defining that, this can be adapted to show that, because there are a lot of different ways of interpreting that, as we know. Free to use, wonderful. Okay, Cheryl, because there is cost to libraries, but free to use. That's a good one, yes. Another question for this was, how can you incorporate your local branding? Stick an institutional logo on there, perhaps.
Might change some of the colors.
Oh yeah, the colors.
Might slap one of your campus like little symbols on the back of the dude's shirt, show that he's a student from your college or university.
Can I ask, where does the QR code go?
Good question. It goes to that flvc.org OER SAP page. So it goes to the streamlined version of the page for the students.
Do you have a QR code that is like, have you in the past used a QR code that goes to a video of an advocate from the college talking about what OER exactly is?
We don't have that yet, but we're hoping on that page where we haven't got there yet. Sorry. But we hope that soon we'll have something of that sort on that page when you link to that. So once the students pull up that QR page, we hope to have some student testimonials on that page. We do not at this time,
Great.
but we do hope to add that.
And I will just plug in here about the video. So that's one of the things we changed. We had a video on the original LibGuide page for students, both of them. And as Kathy said, the feedback, I don't know how deep it went into this, but some of the students thought it was repetitive and it was too fast and what have you. And our marketing department redid it. And we've now placed it on a LibGuide for OER teams and committees who are interested in this and want to share the idea with the students. It basically just really repeated what the flyer showed. So that's where the video lives now. And as Rebel said, and as Jenny, you're saying, the suggestion from the rounds of user feedback was to get some kind of student testimonials in that. So that's what we're looking towards, maybe then having a different video that would have a student testimonial. Anyway, this is just great for thinking about all of this.
And Nancy, you have a great point. Some of your communications and marketing might be very strict and not want you to use this because of the color scheme, and that's why there's a adapted version there, and you can certainly pull that up and change that to your own local color scheme. So we'd love to see that happen. And then the last question, where can you use this new design? So you've hopefully have downloaded a template, made a couple of changes, maybe more than a couple, or have some ideas of changes that you want to do. And when you get this final product done, hopefully when you leave here, or maybe shortly after, how can you use this new design? So what's next? We'll talk about what's next for us as you answer in the chat. Go ahead, Elisabeth.
Yeah, I was just going to say, okay, so we'll move forward to the design and refine, because that's where we are. That shows what's next. That's the next slide. Thank you. So we are at this part of the circle. We're going to relaunch this updated packet, student advocate packet, to everyone, to our state members, of course, but also nationally. And so look for that coming soon. So that's where we are. And then as well, Rebel, you can talk about this.
So we should be posting this soon. We are going to post the student intern. So we're going to hire a student intern. And the whole goal of that thank you for the lead up, is to gather and promote the student voice. So we're going to hire a student and bring them on an internship and have them work to do promoting and marketing of the student advocate packet. The whole goal for them is to create or pull together from other students videos, graphics, and language from the student voice on how others students can help and advocate for OER. So they're going to work with my unit, and we're going to refine some of the messaging and add hopefully some of these videos that we're able to capture onto the site. And the whole goal of this internship is to promote that student-focused OER flyer, to develop a video to explain the student advocate packet visually, and gather student feedback on OER to use in our marketing efforts. The student intern again will work with our unit in order to develop these messaging and content for website or social media posts, etc., to increase our engagement with students. And they'll provide us a final report that details their activities and any feedback or recommendations that we have. And we're super excited to be able to work with a student next. So as we leave, I know we're getting close to time, but we want to know from you, do you have any suggestions for improvement? So like I said, we don't get a lot of library feedback, so we're hopeful maybe some of you have some feedback, some suggestions for improvement as well. We know that we can always do better, and we can always think about things in another light or from a different angle, and we welcome you to help us to do that. And also, what are some next steps that we can take either on your own or together as a group? Again, how can we push that OER student advocacy needle up? And how will you use your new SAP student advocate packet that you've developed on your campus? Wait a minute, see if we get any responses in the chat. I do want to thank you all for your active engagement today in our workshop. And I know that it was online, but I hope that you felt engaged in the process today. I hope that you have at least identified a few other OER student advocate people out there who are interested in the same kind of topic that you are from the attendees list in our conversation today. We do hope that you actually downloaded that template and you can take it and customize it and use it on your campus and really push those students to advocate for their own needs and well-being. So, thank you. And you asked questions along the way, but any final questions, if you want to, you can more than welcome to email us. I'm rsauls@flvc.org. Elisabeth Ebal at flvc.org, and Kathy is kparker@flvc.org. We really appreciate again your engagement and participation with us. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.